Hey everyone, I'm Jordan from New St. Andrews College. I'd like to invite you to join us for one of our upcoming prospective student weekends. We have one on March 2nd and 3rd, and another from April 13th to 16th. To learn more and to register your visit, check us out online at nsa.edu. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
And you're joining us mid-conversation when we realized we really should be podcasting.
We've been sitting in the car for
as we
far
intended
too long,
to podcast.
just chatting.
We've worked out some of our scheduling difficulties in life. I'm getting texts
Rachel
now.
forgot to turn off her ringer and all this time. But I was in the middle of about to tell Rachel this. But
Yeah, so we were like, wait. This is
we
probably
should
something we should
maybe
just take to the podcast.
Start this
streets.
thing up since
Yeah.
we've been chatting for like 20 minutes in the car. No. I was getting totally tickled. I was just telling Rachel that I have been over the last few days, because we just started spring break. Over the last couple days, every day I take a garbage bag and a box up to the attic and I begin to fill them up with garbage and with things to donate somewhere. And I just work on it for like half an hour or whatever, lug the garbage down, chuck it in the back of the truck, and then take the stuff off to donate, and there we go. But it suddenly struck me what I was doing. And this goes back to a major disagreement that Rachel and I have always harbored. And
Our biggest conflict of personality.
conflict, which we may have already thrashed this out on the podcast, but
It's actually exactly like what we were talking about before we started podcasting.
yeah, it used
it's a
to
mental
be
thing.
It's a mental thing. I feel like if I was going to write a personality test, this would be one of the major questions on it, and the other one would be, do you ever use the low setting on anything ever? Like on your iron, do you ever use low?
I don't.
Ever?
No. Hardly ever.
Your hair dryer, would you ever use low?
I'm basically never looking for something to do less than it can.
Yeah. I'm always like, is there a turbo feature?
I think that is funny. Alongside of the question of, are you on brownies, would you want a piece from the middle or
the
a crunchy
corner.
edge?
Yeah.
Because people who yearn for corners are people I can't relate to. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
The crust is like a woeful necessity.
Well, see, here's the thing. Back to this. Back in the olden times, we had 2 apple trees out in our yard, and the apples would fall in the yard, and the bees would come from everywhere, and it
Yellow
was nasty.
jackets.
Yeah,
Nasty
yellow
old
jackets.
things.
So in order to keep the yellow jackets out of our lives, we would have to go out and pick up the apples on a regular basis out of the yard before they got all like mushy.
You could say that was to keep the yellow jackets out of our lives, but I feel like that was how I spent my quality time with the yellow jackets.
Well, that's true
like,
too. But Rachel's technique, and we would clash often over this. If we had to work together, we clashed. Rachel's technique is to go out with the bag and begin picking up apples. My technique, start at the furthest edge and kick the apples to the center. And then work your way around little by little, kicking apples to the center until you have a little pile, and then you can just bend over once, throw them all into the bag.
You cannot bend over
Well,
once.
you squat.
Yeah, but let me tell you.
Here's the thing.
This is a fierce argument.
It
but
is
go
a
ahead.
fierce argument.
It's never.
All I'm
when
saying-
when you think about the fact that it's probably been going a solid 22 years on this
raging
argument.
discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, my thought is
With no winners. No winners
more
yet.
efficient to do it my way. And
I
Rachel
doubt it.
doesn't agree. But here's what I realized I was doing is that, like, I've got to just dig into my house. It's spring cleaning time. What am I doing? I'm starting with the farthest apple all the way out. I'm going up to the attic, and I'm going to begin kicking my way
See, I still want to persuade you to stop the nonsense. Stop the nonsense and just do it my way. And my way is so much more effective. But this is why I think it's more effective. And I think you have to consider this.
I have, and I don't find it
Yeah,
compelling.
but you have to consider it here. And that is that if I get interrupted in my job, you still did part of the job.
No.
Yes,
If you get interrupted
if I'm
in your
picking
job,
up-
you
if-
can't even tell you've done anything.
But if I picked up 3 bags of apples and then got interrupted, 3 bags of apples were seen to completion,
But
as opposed to none picked up.
But if in the time that you picked up 3 bags, I would have created a nice pile. So if I was interrupted, then I could come back later and just pick up right where I left off.
This argument has moved well beyond just the apples because
No, the apples are
we
symbolic.
if we both went and faced a playroom of desolation,
Yeah, we would
I
do it
begin
different.
picking up, I'm like, well, let's pick up all of the dress-ups and put them away, and then let's get all the Duplos, and then we'll pick up the Imaginext, and I don't get involved in sweeping until all that's on the floor is garbage.
Well, neither do I.
Well, no, you've been an advocate of sweeping things to the center and then getting things, pulling them out.
Oh, no, but that's at the end. I don't sweep all of the dress-ups.
No, I hope not, but
No, but here's
I'm a
what
believer
I do.
in just go ahead and hunker over
No.
and make it
Like,
happen fast.
Once you've gotten down to the tiny little twizzles of things.
No,
Just grab a broom,
This
sweep
is like
it,
the
and then
introvert
pull
extrovert
Pull
distinction.
out the Lego man from the pile rather than crawling around the whole floor trying to salvage little bits.
No, I'm a big fan of
No.
picking it up, getting
But
it done.
I'll tell you what I do though when I maybe this comes all the way here to the folding of clothes, but I dump all the clothes out of the basket and I immediately throw them into piles. All the shirts are there, the pants are there, the socks are there. Then I begin and I fold the shirts, and then I fold the pants, and then I fold the socks, or whatever.
This is a really schismatic
Yeah,
topic.
it's different.
because-
It's different, but I
No.
like the smooth. Like, let's do all the shirts.
Yeah, but then
Just do
but
them
see,
all.
my concern again is that then I will end up with cold piles of shirts and socks and stuff because it didn't get done.
It does not take any time. It's just I throw them into piles, and
Actually,
then
I
do
can't
it.
because I'm trying my new squashed method of doing it all in the laundry room, which I like. Did I recommend my ironing mat on this?
No.
Okay, well,
We're
maybe
gonna
I'll save
put
that
the,
for my tip.
Yeah, okay.
My
Save it
hot
for the
tip
tip because I'm
discussion.
interested in what
Yeah.
that's going to be. But
Yeah.
anyway, all I'm saying is that in my house, I think if I think about it, if I was to start with those far-flung apples of the
But I do
attic.
that. I do that sometimes. Except
and I
for
work
don't.
my way down.
Sometimes I'm a big believer in get the central living spaces clean, but sometimes I feel like I've gotten in a bad loop where you're never getting further than that because things are getting
Exactly.
messy so fast that you're just cleaning
And my
in the
central
middle.
spaces are clean.
In those times, I start by
Yeah.
blasting to the let's get everyone's clousets cleaned out.
Yeah, because I feel like I've got some major
I
dust
don't have
bunnies.
an attic.
Major
There's
dust
no,
bunnies.
I have no
in
attic in my life.
I have both a cellar and an attic.
And both of those are the kinds of places that make me nervous. Not yours.
Well, no.
in my own life.
Yeah,
that
because
makes
it's
me
a
nervous.
it's a
Yeah.
dust bunny trap. It's
It's
like
also just you don't necessarily want to
It's
be
where
able
all
to keep
the
that many things with
old school notebooks go to die.
you. Ooh, that
It's
is
not
bad. Uh-huh.
good. Yeah, it's not good. So I'm being kind of ruthless up there right now. I'm just throwing stuff out like you wouldn't even believe. I've got it's spring is hit and I'm ready to burn it all. You know, it's like
Yeah, I periodically have thought, why don't we just rent a construction dumpster?
yeah, I know.
But we don't
I'd
have
like
that
one
much
of those
junk. In
chutes
spite of, do you know what I
leading out
did?
to the dumpster.
You guys, there's a lady, a sweet lady. I don't know her, but I suspect her of being sweet in our neighborhood. I think she's sweet because all I know is she's elderly and her
you've
house
talked
is
about her.
pristine. Yeah, but she periodically puts out like one little
Yeah.
grocery bag tied up in
Yeah.
a little bundle, like it could go on the end of a stick for her garbage.
Yeah.
There's no garbage. We have the biggest garbage that the city allows people to have.
yeah.
And then the biggest recycling bin that the city allows you to have.
Same.
And this last Monday, Luke was out of town, so the kids, I had kids help me get the garbage out.
Yeah.
late in the day, later when I got out to go somewhere, I reversed the car and I see the front of the recycling, this big tall recycling thing, and whoever had put the boxes, it was outside, so there were some boxes in the garage that were had not been, so someone's job was to go get those boxes. Someone who didn't know that you should smack the boxes flat or do something to fit it.
Yeah.
So what we had going on our curbside service was this enormous... Okay, so the previous week had been President's Day on Monday, and Monday is our garbage day, and we didn't think we had garbage getting picked up, but it was coming.
Oh, no.
So we missed a week. So then we put a bunch of spare bags on the street, which is horrible, but we're still behind. We're still trying to dig out of that hole. So our garbage is like the lid wide open with like, not all the, but it was like jammed bags stuffed in it. And then the recycling had, whoever put it was like full boxes, like not collapsed, like a shoebox. And then the 2 pizza boxes with just the bottoms in it, but like the whole top's hanging out the front. Like it was like no subtlety from us. Like none. We just look like 100,000 people live here, and we can't keep it from looking like
Meanwhile,
that.
we have an alley, which I love in lots of ways, because we can just keep the big bins out there behind the hedge, sort of. And but that means Judah has to haul it like all the way out to the alley every time and chunk it in there. The trouble is, when we keep it in the alley, we live across the alley from a bed and breakfast, and frequently the bed and breakfast guests think that it's their garbage. So they clean out after the weekend, because it's not even really a bed and breakfast, it's like a short rental.
Yeah.
So people like move in and do all their own cooking, and then they carry out all their bags and chuck them right in ours, and it's like, ow, again they've done it. I don't know how to deal with
Personal garbage, not yours. Put a little sign
other
on
people's garbage. Yeah, like
This
in
garbage
there.
does not belong to you.
No,
Would be a good.
It's real pain. But anyway,
Okay, so there's something that I did think we should talk about.
okay, what?
And that is that, well, I used to write a lot to young mothers, or mothers who were really in the trenches of little kids.
Yeah.
And I have quit writing about that, for the most part.
Okay.
Not really on purpose. It's just my life has changed.
Yeah.
I was writing to those people when that was the prime thing on my brain. Like, that's what I'm dealing with every day. And really gradually it got so that was not, where that was not that. Like, I still have a 2-year-old and I have a 5-year-old, and a lot of my life, a lot of those lessons are still really part of my life. But the challenges that I have now are different, and it is not, that plus there being less time to write. Those two things together have combined to, sometimes it would be like, oh, it's nap time. I need to get out this thought I was having this morning. You know, like whatever. And that's not how it happens. Nobody naps.
No.
There's no napping.
That's a life change.
No rest for the wicked, as it says. So anyways, I don't write often to young mothers, but I still feel full of things to say to young mothers.
Okay,
so
unpack them.
Well, this just has come up to I have considered writing another book that needs a ridiculous title, because the premise is that I have is, this is not encouragement for mothers.
This is a pep talk?
This is rebuke from mothers.
Yeah.
And here's why.
Gosh,
here's
we could
why.
do a whole series of those, Rach.
Yeah, but this is why.
Yeah.
Because in my own mothering life, I think it is safe to say that 90% of the time that I thought I needed encouragement, I needed the cold backhand of rebuke to the face.
Yeah.
And that every time I had a turning point or a game changer or something that was like, holy smokes, I've got it all wrong, let's change this. Mm-hmm. It was never because someone came and held my hand and said, you're working so hard,
you
dearie.
On the shoulder.
Yeah, like, I'm so glad you try so hard.
No.
Because the thing is that that's not why I was losing patience with my children.
If you have a big sliver that's all swollen and pussy.
Have I told you about the great sliver?
Well,
sorry.
I'm not positive.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
hard
sure
to
I did. I'm sure I
recall
told
it. But
you
I
about
just
it.
mean, you need somebody to get in there with the tweezers. And if you don't want to reckon with the pain of the tweezers, you're gonna be stuck with a nasty situation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like you guard it. Like, no, you can't get the glass out of my foot. It hurts too much when you push on it. But it's
Yeah.
like,
Well,
sometimes that's what you gotta
It'll
do.
be a lot better than
Yeah.
7 years of this
Exactly.
blister
I know.
foot problem.
Learning to walk
So-
without your left heel.
Right, and I think it's just that all the times that I can think of as like, no, that really cleared my mind and
No.
gave me focus. It was never tenderness.
No.
And I know that maybe there's personality types that are not me. I get that. I am the kind of person who
That
likes
doesn't
to
make
deal.
them sinless personality
No,
types.
but I am the kind of person who likes to deal in the harsh realities, probably. But one of the things that
I'm sorry though, if you're a person who traffics in splinters, then you're gonna have to be a person that can reckon with the tweezers. It's like,
Sure, yes. Oh, no, I know. But I'm saying that I understand that. I'm not trying to say, maybe there are people out there whose nutritious help is someone just saying, I understand and you're doing a good job. That was not what I needed ever.
sometimes that is
No,
exactly what you
actually
need.
that's not true. My husband often gave me that.
Yes.
But the times when I was having some kind of a crisis, it's not that I didn't need regular encouragement. It's that
Yes.
I did need rebuke when I thought I just needed encouragement. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about, yeah, sure, I had lots of encouragement, but the times that felt like a crisis
Yep.
was almost universally a time that I was not needing encouragement.
For me as well, and in the moments where everything feels sort of hopeless and dismal, like nothing, you can't get anything anymore because it's all a mess and everything's horrible, and you can't even imagine how
This is
little
why
I
we
can.
can't have nice things.
When everything is like that, what you need is a pep talk. And sometimes you got to give it to your own darn self.
Yeah.
Like,
No
sometimes you're like, all right, it's time to
Pony up.
Yeah, assess this like a big girl.
Well, I will tell you that I am in my age group, in women whose children are a little bit older now. And then there's a generation below us who are just getting into the thick of the crazies.
Yes.
Like that now it's not one baby. It's not just the scenic
No.
family photo shoots anymore. It's the times that you never
Because-
dreamed of
Yeah, because
happening.
the one baby is still like this beautiful kind of honeymoon almost.
Oh, and it's such novelty.
it's novel and it's wonderful and everything is exciting.
And then you have two. And, you're
then-
like,
and it's still
woo, doggy, this is a little different, but it's still fabulous and fun. And then as Dad says, we never did 3, but as Dad says, 3 is when you move from a man-to-man to a zone defense.
Exactly.
And that is when you may start to feel that they're setting screens on you and driving to
They
the
are.
hoop over and
They
over
are.
and over.
They are.
Like, you are not winning at this. And in anyways, that whole scene, do you know that person?
I do.
Oh.
She's our neighbor. And you know her too, but I'll refrain from telling you who it is
Don't
on the
call her out.
podcast. Yeah.
Becca's just waving at people, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that I think is actually really important, is that you get to a place, you will get to a breaking point. You have a breaking point.
Yep.
And for me, it was the twins. It could have happened at 3, I don't know, but I went straight to 4, so that did it for sure. That was without a doubt the reckoning for me. It was
Yeah.
the moment of, oh my word, kind of a moment.
Yeah.
And that moment lasted for a little while. You know, like it lasted for a couple years of intensity.
Uh-huh.
And then it has just sort of
Yeah.
slowly eased up while the intensity is coming in other places.
Yeah.
So, but this is the thing I want to say. Women in my position, I believe, I'm speaking generally. I'm sure I'm not overly specific. But who are no longer being totally what we call sweaty eyeball phase of like, holy smokes,
Right.
this is crazy. Part of the reason that they have a different outlook on life is because they are actually aware of how fast it's going.
Yeah.
Like, there is a moment where you start to think, hang on now. Because one of the things that's really is, I'm sure it's more so this way for you, but the fact that my oldest is a teenager now, it feels like it took about 10 minutes to get there.
Oh yeah.
And that whole time we've had babies. So like I've been in the like nursing and changing diapers, and like we've had someone in diapers continuously, pretty much minus a couple months off once,
Yeah.
I think. You know, like
Yeah.
for 13 years. And like I don't think of it like when something happens, like, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is now I am already thinking gain speed now for being a grandmother, because it's coming so fast that I need to be thinking that way.
There's a lot of steps in between there that you're going to have to get good at first before you.
But
hit
I know
the
that.
grandma.
I know that. I'm not talking specifically just about the grandma, but my point is that you start realizing that this is just a flash. And if I want to be an old woman who people would say she was really, really loved the Lord and His Word, that at some point I have to be being that person now.
Well, okay. So if you're the kind of young mom who is always overwhelmed, always telling everybody how bad it is, always complaining, always grousing about it and how you don't have time for yourself and you've lost yourself in everything. Well, you're going to be the kind of middle-aged woman who's grousing about her teens and grousing about the fact that they don't
And her
this
wrinkles.
and that. And she's
And her
gonna,
wrinkles
and then you're
and
going to be
her-
an old woman that nobody wants to be around ever because you're grousing about how the kids never come back to visit. It's like, if you are a grouchy
you are actually
person,
on a path.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, as Dad says, wherever you go,
There you are.
And so the thing is, if you're discontent and unhappy as a single, then you're going to be discontent and unhappy when you're married. And if you're discontent and
and part of
unhappy
that
with
is
babies,
because-
you're going to be discontent and unhappy with teens. It does not matter if now you don't have to change diapers and you get to sleep through the night.
Right, and
you will find something else to complain about because you're a complainer.
Yes, exactly. And one of the things that I think is important is that you have to have a moment of reckoning when you realize I either die to myself now and I learn to be the kind of person who dies to myself daily without effort. Like where you
No, I think it's always effort.
No, sorry. Without a huge wrangle, because I think that there is a phase where maybe this is the first time anyone has asked much of you.
Yeah, it's
like
true.
maybe because you are not Almanzo from the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, and you grew up in a plush life where you were actually not responsible for a lot. That all of a sudden you have 3 little lives dependent on you, and you realize that you are really bad at this. Like you are not good at this.
Yeah.
Well, either you learn to be the kind of person who just lays their life on the altar by habit, by like, this is who I am.
I think there's a real specific point that when you say lay yourself down, sacrifice, put yourself on the altar, what that means in actual hard facts is you have to do your duty, regardless of what you feel like. You have to get up and do your duty. That's what sacrifice looks like.
Right, like it means that you're not holding it against your children that people were vomiting in the night. Like, this was never about you. Like, it was not about how interrupted your sleep is.
But I just feel like oftentimes, you get your emotional car in a ditch. Like, there you are, wheels spinning, feeling like it's all, no, this is impossible. You get the winch out and hook it up, and that's you doing your duty. It's where you think, I would rather sit in bed and cry and eat ice cream. But what's my duty?
Well, who gives a rip what you would rather do?
It's like,
what
get
would
out of
God
bed
rather you do right now?
and take care of your children, or get out of bed and get to the grocery store, or get out of bed and whatever, fill in the blank.
And I would say, like, practically,
your stupid
really,
duty.
really practically speaking, that may mean, like, I can remember times where you just realize, you just see that your attitude is not in harmony with God's word. That it's like, but I believe children are a blessing. I believe that this is a gift. I believe that I am being ugly and ungrateful right now. And I am, for some reason, not having the wisdom to, generally, it's your children's sin that is frustrating when they get to a point where you feel like you can't control them.
Yeah.
And that moment you think, okay, you need to be relying on God to give you both, like, your natural love for your children will run out when things get really crazy, and you need a supernatural love. Like, you need God's love for your children to actually enable you to do your duty like you should be doing.
Right. But it's surprising how often, when you decide to stop wallowing in your emotional basket case and you just decide to, okay, I'm going to go in and cook dinner, for instance, that often is God's means for pulling you out of the ditch.
Oh, yeah.
It's like-
and one thing I would say really practically is thank God directly for all the things. Thank him for the sickness in the house. Thank him for all the hard things, and say, help me to glorify you in this.
And I guess this is only true if you are a Calvinist, which we are. But it's like, do you believe your
it's
theology
actually true.
or not?
I was like, it's true no matter what.
It's true for anyone.
Yeah.
But I just mean, like,
Yes.
do you supposedly believe that God is sovereign and that he is
Or do you
in
think
control?
that he can't see you right now?
Do you think that this is a day that he set in front of you from before creation?
With these particular
particular hurdles, and he is going to get you through it? Or do you not believe it and you're just going to sit and whine and complain?
And like the reality is that the reason that older people will tell you this will go by so fast is because they actually know the truth.
But I just think, like, on the duty, what's your duty? Usually it's the thing you don't want to do right now because everything's so bad. So maybe it's forgive your husband. Maybe it's clean up.
It's do your duty. Yeah.
Maybe it's the clean up that mess. Maybe it's get out of bed. Maybe it's forgive your children.
Take the kids on a walk,
Maybe
or do
it's
something fun.
Maybe it's discipline the children. Maybe it's actually do something fun for your children.
Yeah.
Like,
I have one more word about this that I think is just an important aspect of it, is that one of the habits of our modern time that is unhealthy and not helpful is the distractions. Right? So one thing that happens when you are in, I laugh about this. This is how my time has changed, how things have changed. I remember a time when my husband would text, like, running late today.
okay.
And I would be like, how late? Like, trying not to let the desperation seep through the text. How late, Luke? How late are you going to be today? He'd be like, and this, he knew how important it was too, because he would give me numbers like 17 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm probably running 17 minutes late.
Right.
And I can remember looking at the clock and thinking, I'm going to die before then. like honestly thinking, this can't be survived.
Yeah.
Like, I won't be able to make it 17 extra minutes.
Right.
And that is a funny thing, because now that is not so much the way that my life goes. Like, now it's more like, wait, is Luke late? Like, what time is it? Have I done this? But this is the reason I wanted to bring this up. It is a specific phase in your life where you are probably hungry for and desperate for some, like, relief. Right? Like, you need that, like, when daddy comes home, that relief of, like, change of subject.
Yeah.
Let's just, it feels like somebody opened the windows and, like, whoo, let's change this. Like, I've been a little claustrophobic at home right now. Well, the thing about that I think is really important is to analyze how you're trying to get that relief.
Yeah.
And the reason I say this is vegging out on Facebook,
binge watching Netflix,
maybe Instagramming too hard for an afternoon, or
eating
Pinterest,
ice cream
or like,
out of the tub,
or like spending time, like whatever. It's kind of like if you're like working really hard on some kind of major physical labor that's going to last for a long time. Like, let's say, like a major, I don't know, what's a good example? What's a hard physical labor bag?
You're gonna re-roof your house. I don't know what kind of example.
I'm just trying to think of something
for.
that's taking a lot of exertion. Like, say you're busy, you're working hard, you're sweating, you need fuel, but for some reason you keep going and getting little tear open packs of sweet tarts. Where you're like, what are you doing? And you're like, next time I have a break, maybe I'll eat some Nerds. And then you wonder, how long are you going to do well? Like, how many days can you sustain this kind of physical labor on little blasts of banana runts? I mean, like, what are you going for here?
How did you manage to pull banana runts out of the files?
I hate those. It's like,
well, they are
gross,
like but
sugar packed
into
the shape of a banana that tastes
you even
like.
could dial up that.
Yeah, well, I did. Watch me go. And it is like all you're doing is getting from one, like you're in something that requires a ton of exertion, and God has actually provided for you good food and nutritious food and encouraging food, you know, like in his word, in the fellowship of other people who will hold you accountable, who will say this is out of line, like your attitude is bad here. Like you need that. And it is a thing to me is that Christian women are going to like, so say, I'm not saying it's wrong to go to the gym, but I'm saying if you're thinking, I have to get this time for myself, I have to do this, and there's no way I could be happy at home if I couldn't get out and get to the gym. It was like, well, that is a sign that you are leaning heavily on the wrong thing. Like,
also, there's nothing wrong with like, let's say, well, it's like, say you're swimming, right? You're trying to swim laps. There's nothing wrong with taking a breath, right? But the reason you take a breath is to enable you to swim further.
Not to like get out of here while the getting's good.
But the thing is, like, you don't take 2 strokes in order that you may get a breath. You take a breath in order that you can take 2 more strokes.
Exactly.
And if you have to just like go get out of the house, get a coffee, pray, whatever, that's so that you can go back and throw yourself at it even more. You don't just get through your day so that you can go and get a coffee and that will be the end of it. Like, what's your duty? What has God called you to? And then, of course, taking a breath is fine, but you have to realize that it's in order that you can work harder.
Absolutely. And I had one time, this is when I talk about the cold backhand of rebuke that's so good. I just told this story recently. I'm like full of telling this story. Okay. So sorry to all of you who are hearing it again. But I had a day where it was just not panning out for me. This was a long time ago, and I don't know what exactly was going wrong, but it was all the things. Okay. It was probably the kind of day that started out with no one being able to find socks or their school clothes, and you didn't have any food for breakfast. And
then they all got tardy slips.
Yeah, and everything went bonkers from there on out.
Right.
And however it happened, I ended up at the Winco with a cart, just not in the mood, not feeling it. And casting about for solutions. Like I wanted to, I think I probably had gotten myself a coffee. I probably was like, I just need a coffee. I just need to get out and get this done. I'm just gonna whatever. And I remember calling my husband because I was like, I can't even think of what I need to buy and why am I even here and this is all awful. Like, it was one of these like, our life, I'm calling you to tell you that our life isn't working anymore. And I can't handle this.
Well, he's in the middle of his morning trying to do work.
He's like, thanks, dear, for your help. Thanks for being such a good helpmeet and a support in my life.
Thanks for being on the team.
I'm like, but I remember it as being one of those times that it was probably a mixed, bottled up emotion of like where you could cry about it, but you're probably being like angry underneath somewhere in there. Like if you really knew, like there's some kind of resentment brewing about something. And I think part of the reason I was feeling that way is because I was like, couldn't get out of it. Like I kept trying to be like, I'll get a coffee and then I'll do this and then I'll just cheer up after I get groceries. But here I am at the grocery store full of stink for the world, like not okay with it. And I knew it wasn't okay, you know, so I called my husband to chat about it. And you know, you just cut right to the chase with like, it sounds like you're just having a bad attitude. Sounds like you need to do what's commonly called in the Christian walk some confession of sin. I was like, really? No. Like, I wanted you to suggest something that would help me.
That probably involved a babysitter and a spa day.
And he says, have you prayed about it? Like, have you actually confessed this and prayed about it? And I'm like, and the thing that was so bad and funny about it is that I knew I was horribly convicted by him saying, have you prayed about it? Because the fact I have enough boundaries in my life to know that when you're ready to get mad that someone suggests you pray, that you are the one in sin. You know, like if someone says pray and you're like, ugh, as if that would help. Yeah. You know that
or just like, how insensitive are you?
Why would you suggest that I'm having a problem?
Especially when I called to tell you about my
I just
problem.
interrupted your work because I'm having a problem, and I can't believe you assume that God would have a solution. And I was so annoyed. But the verse that just totally hit me in the face, and he told me to. He was like, "Why don't you get off the phone and pray about it?" So here I am in the Winco. Now I'm like doubling up things. Now you have to obey your husband and pray and confess your sins. Now I don't just have to submit to God.
Yep.
I have to do it and submit
Yep.
to my husband. Anyways, I pulled over into the aisle, one of the out of the way aisles.
The dog food aisle.
Now it was the one with like the Scotch tape.
I think that is the dog food aisle.
And
at
actually,
the
it's
other
just
end.
opposite the store. Yeah, you might be right. Anyways, I'm in that aisle, and I'm like, all right, and you know what just came to my mind at that moment was the verse about the Lord resists the proud but gives grace to the humble.
Yeah.
And I realized that here I was thinking that I could fix this. Like my pride of being like, I can turn my attitude around. I can come up with a schedule change that will make this better. I can relieve this by just getting myself a coffee.
Or
like,
I'll just get mad because none of those work.
right, I'll just change the scene and then I'll feel better. Or maybe if I just got out of the house once in a while. But it's like, no, the funk came with me because the pride was coming with me. And so as it happened, I confessed my sin and prayed about it and texted my husband that I had done what I was told. I did the thing. I'm okay. And I remember standing there and just thinking, good heavens, like if you want grace from God, like, because that's the next part of the verse, right? Is that, anyways, the point is, I can't quote it all, but the point is, God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. And it's like, that humbling yourself is not the way of, it is not like accepting the horror show of your life, the worst as it ever is. What overwhelms you is not your busyness, but the grace. Do you know what I mean? Like, humble yourself before the Lord, and not because that way you just take all the worst that ever. You know what I mean? Like the worst crisis. Without my attitude, the busyness was all
But
fine.
the other thing that I've noticed is that, like, let's say you have a big face plant of an emotional morning, and it's all terrible. Basically, everything seems impossible.
Did you go
Life
cross
is
your day
bad.
out on the calendar with a big black X?
Yeah,
and
the
a skull and crossbones.
but like, let's say that
The Mr. Poison
that's what you
stickers.
did. And then the Mr. Yuck.
Mr. Yuck poison stickers.
But like, what if you have that Tuesday, right? Bad, terrible times. And then let's say that you get your heart right, you get yourself back up, you move along. I bet you anything that the following Tuesday, if I was to sit you down and give you a quiz on what was the matter last Tuesday, you actually wouldn't be able to remember.
No, like in my story,
However-
I remember my attitude, but nothing about what actually happened.
I mean, it takes no time for those troubles to be very far in the rearview mirror. But if you hang on to that little funk and you nurse and you tend it and you water it and you pour over your problems even more, and then what it means is the next day, those little things are going to be even bigger. And then the next day, even bigger. And you're going to be able to itemize every grievance that you have. And it's like, is that the kind of person that you really want to be?
No, like, no.
And
Goodness.
and I also think too that when God, it's helpful to think of the trials that we are sent, whatever they may be. I mean, some people have financial trials, some people have medical trials, some people have relationship trials. Whatever it is, you think this is a particular class that God has enrolled me in. He wants me to learn something from my trial. And so he has tailor-made this day, this situation, these challenges are like tailor-made just for you. Nobody else has to take this test because he's not working on the same thing with everyone.
No.
So what is it that...
And it's also from the hand of a loving father.
Sure.
Who is doing right by you.
But again, you think about like, okay, what does he want you to learn? And like as a teacher, if you are trying to teach all the kindergartners to read, if they refrain from learning how, then you're going to keep them in kindergarten another year. It's like, do you actually...
Are you doing your flashcards or
Yeah.
are you not?
It's like, do you want to graduate out of this, or would you rather continue to stay here in this?
Well,
in this
I
one?
actually have a perfect example because we just had a kindergartner who tried the move of I can't. Who did I can't. Cannot. Can't do this. Even though it was something that he could.
Okay.
Could in fact do. He just went for the I can't approach.
Which is,
And-
I have to say, the default excuse of many women.
Yeah, I can't. Well,
just-
and
I
thus
just
the
don't understand. I
commonness
just
of the
can't.
quote, I can't even. I can't even alphabetize my flashcards, which was what it was. Put your ABC cards in order. I can't. I cannot do this deed. Like, you've asked too much of me.
You've asked me to confess
you who
my
taught
sins.
me my
I
ABCs.
can't.
Yeah, like, you who were here for the whole thing, you know I can't. And it's so funny because everybody knows you can. So, we were just talking about it, and that the reality is that there are other ways of expressing. It was actually really a darling problem. It was really sweet and a great thing to overcome. But he said, I just couldn't think about what happens around K. I thought that was the most brilliant fog, and it made us just step back out all the way and sign off the whole program. Like, no, I won't. I can't do it. So, but as we were talking about it, we were like, okay, but this is the thing that we need to think about, is that you may say, I don't understand this, or
Yes.
I'm having trouble with this.
here.
I said, you can raise your hand and you can say, I need some help with this. You cannot say, I can't.
Yeah.
That's a no-no. That is the one you may not say. And it's funny how applicable that is. You can ask the Lord for help.
Yeah.
You can say, I don't know how to do this. Like, this is a problem. And he will provide the answer for that. But the I can't, I quit. No such thing will happen on my watch. These cards shall not be alphabetized.
It's like, here I lie on the floor. I can
do no other. Here I schlep around the house. I can do no other. And we tell same person in our lives. We sometimes say, let's not act like a piece of melted cheese because
I think it was Jemima at our house said the other day, like, somebody was being a wet saltine.
an over dipped graham cracker.
It's like, yeah, the wet saltine is about how you feel on some days.
Oh, I do have to say, connected to this, that nothing gives me as much joy as having my older kids being witty in their own right. Like, they're not repeating things, they're being clever of their own doing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my word, that is like one of the most fun things. But we
It
were at
is.
Joann's the other day, and my 13-year-old comes around the corner. Mom! She knits. She does a lot with fibers. She knits and weaves and does all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
She's like, Mom! She's like, look at this yarn. And I looked at it, and I have to say, I was sort of like, whoa, that's a dark deed that happened there. It was it was like an all acrylic static festival of multicolors.
Of rust, mainly.
It was a saddened looking color line. And she's like, look at this yarn. She said, if anyone saw this yarn and thought, I have to knit with it, that person is not living a happy life. It's quite the setup. I was like,
right.
You are intuiting.
That's another question I would put on my personality test. Look at this yarn. Does it inspire you?
Are you happy about it or not? I should say that one yarn that has been ruined forever for me is Lamb's Pride, like brown sheep Lamb's Pride single spun. So it's just one twist. So it's like a thicker yarn that is one twist. And I used to really think it was hot stuff, and I liked it. I mean, I knit a couple things with it. They have pretty vivid colors. I had knit a few things with it, and then I was on a big, like, I shall knit slippers to felt with this when I was morning sick with someone.
Oh, that'll do
with
it.
Daphne, and I have never been able to look at single
No.
single twist wool since that time with any sort of tolerance. I see it and I'm like, get away from here.
There's a shade of pink makeup that to this date makes me queasy.
Like, I hate that.
Yeah,
It makes me
I hate
feel
it
so
hard.
sick.
I had to throw it away after
I
Knox
have to
was
get
born.
rid of this now.
I was like, I can't even look at that lipstick or that blush at all ever again. Thank you.
I need to throw back to another thing about mothers. What Becca was saying about this is custom for you. That's true of everyone. And that one thing that women need to just totally take out of their coping toolbox is this suggestion that it's so much worse for them than it is for everyone else.
Oh, man.
When you are like, oh, well, but this is way harder for me because I'm a
Yeah.
more sensitive person.
Yeah, it's harder
Or,
for me because
I don't
thrive on quiet.
You might be getting into one of my personal pet peeves, which is because I'm an extrovert in probably every test that existed, even the brownie test or the apple test. I am an extrovert in that.
Possibly.
That when people who are introverts would be like, well, I'm not like my extrovert friends. I don't feel energized by being around my
You're like,
kids.
one thing I don't feel
I'm like,
energized
let
is
me-
trying to have a conversation with you.
Oh yeah, well there's that. But no, I actually meant thinking that extrovert mothers at home with their children are
No.
being fueled up all day by that time
No.
is a lie. Like,
It is a lie.
Your problems are different because they're special made for you.
But
God is not easing off the sanctification with anyone and telling yourself things like, well, my situation's different because I have chronic headaches, or it's harder for me to do this because I don't have a mom in town,
Well,
or because I don't have, or whatever.
I remember one time there's a family with really beautifully behaved children, like just lovely family. And I remember a lady with not well behaved children at all saying, well, the thing is that they just have easy children.
Oh, my
And I
word,
was like,
right?
no, I actually know them. They're a headstrong bunch. But so I just think that oftentimes we console ourselves with, well, it's just easier for them. They just
Or
naturally
like,
have
they're
it.
just people who don't have to work at this.
It's like,
Instead
no,
of thinking,
we're all
maybe have just been showing up more regularly than you
and
are.
we're all on the road to heaven, and
And it's hard work.
It's hard for
overcoming
everyone.
the flesh and the devil while we're here. It's
Yeah.
a lot of work.
and I just think oftentimes we extrapolate that because my neighbor doesn't have this identical trial that I have, must mean that they don't have any trials at all.
It's
so
so
it's just easy for them.
It's so
Yeah.
essy.
That classical illusion.
I like to
So
cite my
essy.
classical education every once in a while.
But
Yeah.
the thing is I just think that you just have to realize that often you don't see it, but God is hammering people because he is sculpting all of us into the image of his son. And a sculpture takes chisels and hammers. And just because he's working on the nose with you doesn't mean he's not working on
No, exactly.
the
And-
ear with someone else.
And that's part of the whole humble yourself. Like,
Yeah.
humble yourself.
And
like,
learn
be shaped.
the darned lesson.
Accept the blows. And if you feel like you're getting beat up by your life at home with your kids, consider that maybe you should stop resisting what God is giving you in your life. And, one more last tip. Are we going over time?
Probably.
One more last tip of this is just to go ahead and do the thing, which is ask your husband not to fight with him. I don't mean that. I'm not trying to set you up. I was going to say women who want to get counsel from other friends and from other people. Your husband may know exactly what the problem is, and you may be just refusing to obey him in this.
Yeah.
Like for instance, when I called my husband, he knew. He recognized immediately that what was happening was sin by me.
And imagine
It
if
was-
you had called me, and imagine if I never
Well-
do this to you, but if I'd been like, oh, you poor thing.
Can I make
Can
you
I
dinner
bring you
tonight?
something?
Should I bring you
Yes.
coffee? Should we just take a minute and
Pat,
watch something
Yes.
stupid on Netflix?
I'll bring the ice cream.
Oh, we'll just feel sorry for ourselves together. And this is the thing, is that talk to someone who will actually, and your husband is the only other person who is as invested in
Yeah.
your home life as you are.
Get somebody with the tweezers.
And you say, what should I be doing differently? And will you help me to do it? Like, will you help me to do this? Because your husband may have way more insight than you're wanting to acknowledge.
But also sometimes, let's be honest, your prayer frequently might be, "Dear Lord, I am angry and I'm not sorry. I need to feel sorry, but I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm still mad. And I need you to help me because the thing is, oftentimes we feel like we have to get ourselves sorry
Get it all
first,
right and then ask the
and
Lord.
then ask the Lord to help. But the problem is oftentimes you know exactly what it is. Like, I can't forgive that person.
Uh-huh.
And so I need you to help me because I know what my duty is, but I
moment.
don't feel like it.
My moment, I'm sure I've told on here about me wanting to tell my children they'd never be allowed to have curtains again. I wasn't feeling, and that's the thing. Repent and apologize and get it right before you feel like it. Like, you know it's wrong, say you're sorry. Ask the Lord to forgive you. Like if you have the knowledge.
Well, it's
that
like
you sinned.
It's like Grandpa's illustration he always uses in his bitterness booklet, but about like how he got grumpy at Grandma for some reason, so he went off into the bedroom to pray, got on his knees, prayed that he would be forgiven for being grumpy at Grandma, and then he would stand up and be like, "But she was," and so he'd get back on his knees, pray again, get up and be like, "But she was really at," and so he'd get back on his knees, and he had to stay there repeating that until he could get up without saying "but she." Until he could. And so sometimes it just takes, I think that often wrestling in prayer is with your own self.
Oh my heavens, yes. Isn't it so? It's just like, it is like a thing that you have to deal with, the fact that you have to submit yourself to God. And sometimes that feels like not really all that spiritual
but
of
that
the work.
Verse in particular, submit yourself to God, resist the devil and he will flee from you. It's not enough to just resist the devil. He will not flee.
No.
You
If
have
you're just like,
to-
you're just like, if I drink another cup of coffee, I'll cheer up.
First.
Yeah, I'll cheer up and pull out of it in a minute when I get my act
It's
together.
like, except for the real hard truth of that is you didn't want to cheer up.
Yeah.
So
okay,
that's
so
the problem.
we're gonna move on to
We
a
gotta
tip.
go. We're
gonna give a tip.
hustle out here.
My tip is that preparedness makes all the difference in the world, and thus I recommend to you all to get on the Amazon.com and order yourself, if you have little children. Becca probably doesn't need this. The Super Sorb vomit absorbing granules.
No, Becca doesn't need it, but I take credit for being the one to think of it and tell Rachel.
Years ago, you were like, what about the janitorial supplies? And so what it is that it absorbs the fluid and neutralizes the odors.
Yeah.
In a space where it happens, and you can vacuum or sweep it up after the fact.
Guys, like, that's a game changer.
What's not to love? But
I'm
a big
lived
believer.
through all the years of vomit everywhere, all over the house, all the time, is what it seemed like. Without this product.
The other thing I say is the gallon plastic pitchers with a handle.
Okay.
The, like, cheap pitchers.
Yeah.
And then I buy the small plastic, like, garbage bags.
Yes.
The teeny ones for, like, bathroom garbages.
Yes.
And line it, and I tie it around the handle, and so that there's no rinsing of anything.
No, I did that with. I used a stock pot because you want a wide mouth.
This is plenty wide, but
it has a handle. I guess that's kind of handy.
The handle is good,
Interesting.
and there's way less hazard because it's so deep. There's way less hazard.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like a wide mouth, deep vessel. Yeah. But definitely line it.
My feeling is
definitely line
why go forth and have to wash it out every time? Because then every time you're rinsing it, you're like, now do I have to clean the whole toilet, clean the whole bathtub, clean everything? Because
it's terrible.
You end up kind of having to, like, hose the house off and bleach.
Okay, but you also cryptically referenced folding ironing.
Oh yeah, ironing mat. Okay, I ordered this up off of no, I didn't. I bought it at Walmart. I was gonna order it on Amazon, and then I saw it at Walmart.
What is it?
It's a heat ironing pad that you can put on top of. I have it on top of the dryer, and it magnets on the sides, And it's like, instead of the ironing board, I just leave it there all the time and have the iron by it. I have an ironing board for like ironing shirts or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you do about the collars section?
In my normal traffic of laundry, when like napkins come through all rumpled or something, I can very quickly iron them when I'm like in folding a load. I'm like, oh, I'll iron that, or I'll iron the edges of this table runner. And so those things are actually getting processed in a much better way than they would have been.
What I would have thrown all those napkins off to the side so I could have ironed them all at the same time.
But do you do that all the time? Do you always find yourself ironing all of them? Because what would happen to me is I would decide I didn't care that much about ironing them.
It's better than having like 2 of them ironed and 7 of them not.
No, because I keep them all, when I iron them, I put them in a stack, but then you have a stack of ironed ones, so as they come through.
All I'm saying is that I would do it in the same amount of time as you. I would just do it together.
No, I should be clear. I have a little basket in there that I put napkins in when I'm going, but sometimes it's just odds and ends of things that need to be ironed while I'm folding
I'm just
clothes.
saying, what I wouldn't do is iron a napkin, fold a shirt, pair 2 socks, iron a napkin. I would do all the shirts, all the socks, then I would iron all the napkins, and then I would walk away.
Yeah, but I might, or I might not. Depends on the layout of the laundry room at that time.
Anyways.
My point is realizing that the obstacle of going and setting up the ironing board was actually keeping me from ironing things that I could have handled and processed much quicker.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so that's why I did that.
This is
What's your tip?
You've just had 2, so that
hogging the tip circuit.
Yeah, it eliminates the need for me to think of something.
So I think All right. Well, we'll let you go.
We should go.
We'll talk to you next time.
Okay. Bye.
I'm a 2009 graduate of New St. Andrews College, and I'm a commercial property manager.
3 kids at Logos, 1 at home still, and I do flowers on the side out of our house. When you have these little people that you're responsible to shepherd, you realize I need to know what I'm talking about because they need to have a firm foundation and they need deep roots so that they don't get blown over and that they're ready to stand up for the truth.
I am a programmer. The language aspect of NSA is a fantastic preparation for any sort of programming.
I'm a real estate broker here in town. I think absolutely the perfect education for being in sales of really any kind.
I actually put it to a lot of great use when I was working in the political realm.
I am a pastor in Central Coast, California. Whatever vocation you take, it'll make you take that seriously because you're seeing it through the lens of the sovereignty and lordship of Christ.
To learn more, visit us online at nsa.edu.